Hello, friends, and welcome once again to an episode of The Bible Yogi. I'm your host, Douglas Roberts. Today is episode 42. We are picking up the saga of Moses leading the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt. And the synopsis is that he's rescued 600,000 people from slavery from the land of Egypt. They've destroyed the entire land of Egypt through 10 plagues, including the plague of the firstborn, which implemented the Passover supper, which became the Last Supper of Jesus in the New Testament. And they escaped. They plundered the Egyptians. They took all their gold, silver, copper, bronze, and fine linens. And then they escaped through the Red Sea when Moses parted the Red Sea. And Pharaoh and all his chariots tried to follow them, and the sea closed up again, killed them all. And their bodies washed up on the shore. And then, even with all those miracles, the children of Israel grumbled against Moses because they had no food. They're about to starve in the wilderness. And they said, "You took us out in the wilderness because there are no graves in Egypt?" I always love that line. Just throw it out there again. And Moses and God fed them with manna from heaven, a honey and coriander seed flavored bread that appeared as dew on the grass in the morning. And in the evening, quail landed on their camp, and they had roast quail for dinner. And that's how they were fed. And then later, when they were thirsty, Moses struck a rock with the staff that he did everything with, and water came from the rock and satiated their thirst. So now, after all those miracles and all that deliverance, they are now come to Mount Sinai, where God is about to appear on the rock and speak audibly to an entire nation of people. Thunder on the mountain. Exodus chapter 19. In the 3rd month, when the children of Israel were gone forth out of the land of Egypt, the same day came they into the wilderness of Sinai. For they were departed from Rephidim, and were come to the desert of Sinai, and had pitched in the wilderness, and there Israel camped before the mountain. I skipped over chapter 18, that is the battle with Amalek, and the Lord... They won, okay? So we're skipping that. Please feel free to go read chapter 18. And Moses went up unto God, and the Lord called unto him out of the mountain, saying, Thou shalt say to the house of Jacob, and tell the children of Israel, Ye have seen what I did unto the Egyptians, and how I bare you on eagle's wings, and brought you unto myself. I bear you on eagle's wings is an expression, or on eagle's wings is an expression that Ken Follett used as the title of his book, where he wrote a book about Ross Perot, literally the owner and CEO of a company called EDS, Electronic Data Services. Back in 1979, he had that was during the Iranian Revolution, where the Shah fell and the Islamic State took over, and they took 2 of Ross Perot's. Well, let's go read it. Boom. On Wings of Eagles. So this is the name of Ken Follett's book, and it tells the story based on the rescue of Paul Chiapparone and Bill Gaylord from prison in Tehran by a team of electronic data systems executives led by retired Colonel Arthur D. Simons. So it's pretty incredible. There is a man on this page called Rashid, and he was an ambitious young Iranian systems engineering trainee at EDS, loyal to his U.S. employers and eager to help them win the release of their jailed colleagues. Follett describes him as the instigator of the mob's attack on the Qasr prison. Rashid's efforts were successful. They fled the jail along with other prisoners, and then they made their getaway out of Iran to Turkey, and then to Germany, and then finally to America. That whole rescue was Ross Perot. He had tried diplomatic means, he had tried banking means to pay the ransom, and everything was falling through. And so this rescue was a private citizen hiring his own mercenaries to rescue Americans that were being held in a prison during a revolution in the Middle East. So it was a big deal. I was 18 at the time. And going on simultaneously to this was the Iranian hostage crisis, where this was like the first thing that started the Ayatollah Khomeini's takeover of Iran. And there's a picture of him right there. They captured, I forget how many, 66 Americans, including diplomats and other civilian personnel, were taken, 52 of them being held until January 20th, 1981, a very suspicious date. That was the date of the inauguration of Ronald Reagan. So Jimmy Carter had tried an embargo. He had tried, diplomatic means of rescuing the Americans. It didn't work. They held them for 444 days. During the campaign, Ronald Reagan had said famously, "We'll take care of those cowboys," and that's all he ever said. But that was enough to let Iran know that we're coming for you if you don't release those hostages. And lo and behold, on his inauguration day, they were released. And I remember it grated my nerves back then. I mean, I wasn't into politics at all. I was just a dumb kid, right? 18 or so. And Jimmy Carter gets up there and says, "This shows the value of the embargo and peaceful diplomatic means." It's like, you really think so? On your last day? Right. No, they were running to hide is what it was. They didn't want to get bombed. Anyway, so that's where On Eagle's Wings came from. Or no, vice versa. I like to do cross references in case you've heard of the Ross Perot rescue and the book. This is where they got it from. "Now therefore, if you will obey my voice indeed and keep my covenant, then you shall be a peculiar treasure unto me above all people. For all the earth is mine, and you shall be unto me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words which thou shalt speak unto the children of Israel." That is awesome. That is why we still pray for Israel today, because this covenant has been fulfilled, but it hasn't been broken. They are still a sanctified people set aside for the Lord. They're still supposed to be holy. And what's funny is, look at the way the world today tries to hold Israel to account. It's like the world knows you are supposed to be holy. You are supposed to have a higher standard, than the rest of us. We can be barbarians, but not you. And it's like, so the world just hates them. And a lot of it's, you gotta admit, it's just jealousy, or it's just, I think people understand there's this calling on their lives, and it just drives everybody nuts. It's like they know that you are God's chosen people. I'm just a Christian. I'm just a WASP, right? A white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. No one's coming after me lately until this past generation. But anyway, on with our story. "And Moses came and called for the elders of the people, and laid before their faces all these words which the Lord commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that the Lord hath spoken we will do. And Moses returned the words of the people unto the Lord." So, good thing, they're still on board with this rescue and being God's chosen people. When they want to be a peculiar treasure, that sounds pretty good to them. Yeah, we're on board with being a peculiar treasure unto God, sure. "And the Lord said unto Moses, Lo, I come unto thee in a thick cloud," as I show in the picture, "that the people may hear when I speak with thee, and believe thee forever." Now, don't we all wish this would happen to us? Right? It's like, how many people on the fence out there and say, "Well, I believe in God. If he would carve my initials in concrete in front of me one day with a bolt of lightning, then I'll believe." But remember what we said about Lazarus, right? Lazarus and the rich man, when he was in the bosom of Abraham's bosom, and the rich man was in hell, and the rich man said, Send Lazarus to my home, and have him talk to my brothers and tell them about this awful place, lest they sin and come here." And Abraham said, They have the prophets. Let them listen to the law and prophets. And the man said, no, but if Lazarus rises from the dead and goes and tells them, then they will believe. And Abraham spoke the unbelievable words. You have the laws and the prophets. If you don't listen to them, neither will you believe if someone rises from the dead. And here we have the situation where people are going to actually audibly hear the word of God. And you shall see in subsequent episodes that even this wasn't enough for these people to toe the line. It's amazing. And the Lord said unto Moses, go unto thy people and sanctify them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. Be pure and holy. Clean yourselves up, and be ready against the third day. For the third day the Lord will come down in the sight of all the people upon Mount Sinai. So you're sanctifying yourself for 3 days. It brings to mind when Jesus was in the bowels of the earth for 3 days. And then I don't know. I can't. There's not enough really literature in the New Testament talking about it. What was going on? Was he being purified? What was going on? I mean, when he was on the cross, he was a curse, because the Bible says, "Cursed is everyone who hangs from a tree or from wood, from a cross." And he became a curse for us, but he is sanctified, and now he is at the right hand of God. So this just reminds me of that, the 3 days thing and the purification and the sanctification, because Jesus went from a curse to utterly, totally, completely holy, and then came back and presented himself to us after presenting himself to God as a sacrifice for our sins. And thou shalt set bounds unto the people round about, saying, take heed to yourselves that ye go not up into the mount, or touch the border of it. Whosoever toucheth the mountain shall be surely put to death. There shall not be a hand to touch it, but he shall surely be stoned or shot through. Whether it be a beast or man, it shall not live. When the trumpet soundeth long, we're talking supernatural trumpets, they shall come up to the mount. And Moses went down from the mountain unto the people, and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said unto the people, be ready against the third day, come not at your wives. In other words, also be chaste. All right, for 3 days, just keep yourself clean, holy, clothes washed, and don't come at your wife. Chastity. God descends on Mount Sinai. And there's the picture again for you if you forgot what it looks like. There's Moses. And it came to pass on the third day in the morning that there were thunders and lightnings and a thick cloud upon the mount, and the voice of the trumpet exceedingly loud, that supernatural trumpet. Can't imagine what that sounded like. I actually wrote a song that was the trumpets and stuff. I don't know if it's the way it's supposed to sound, but how I envisioned it. So that all the people that was in the camp trembled. And Moses brought forth I'd be freaked out too. Imagine this camp, all of a sudden from the sky comes these supernaturally loud trumpets. Dun, 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 dun. Who knows, right? And Moses brought forth the people out of the camp to meet with God, and they stood at the nether part, the lower part of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was altogether on smoke, because the Lord descended upon it in fire. And the smoke thereof ascended as the smoke of a furnace, and the whole mountain quaked greatly. And when the voice of the trumpet sounded long, and waxed louder and louder, Moses spake, and God answered him by a voice. So here you go. There's your name written in concrete with a bolt of lightning right there. You're going to believe now that you're up till now, God has only spoken to Moses, right? He did all those miracles, all that deliverance, all that, through the Red Sea, water from a rock, quails in the evening. But no one's ever heard the voice of God except for Moses himself. And now here it is. And the first word that God speaks is, Moses, come here. So everyone's like, you can just picture, it's mindful of, like when a drill sergeant says, I need a volunteer. and there's 10 soldiers standing there, 9 of them take a step backwards. And you're the man, right? Same kind of thing. I mean, I would have been scared. In fact, later in the book of Hebrews, it says that Moses himself said, I was full of fear and quaking. Sure, it's like a volcano. Who wants to go walking into a volcano? And the Lord said unto Moses, go down, charge the people. Now Moses is up on the rock, or on the mountain. Go down, charge the people, lest they break through unto the Lord to gaze, and many of them perish. And let the priests also, which come near to the Lord, sanctify themselves, lest the Lord break forth upon them. So the priests, I guess, get the front seats. And Moses said unto the Lord, the people cannot come up to Mount Sinai, for thou chargest us, saying, set bounds about the mount and sanctify it. And the Lord said unto him, away, get thee down, and thou shalt come up, thou, you, and Aaron with you, and let not the priests and the people break through to come up to the Lord, lest he break forth upon them. So Moses went down to the people and spake with them. Now, after all this, what do you think God has to say? Right? Picture you're a fictional writer. Like my religious professor back at college, he had various ways of, brushing off. He sat there and taught the Old Testament, but didn't believe a word of it, right? He thought that he didn't believe in God, so all these miracles were just Moses being a goofball and interpreting a volcano as, an act of God, or the quails coming into the camp every night in the evening for 40 years. Oh, that was just a coincidence. It's well known that quails migrate and they just got tired and, okay. And then, even the plagues, he walked, talked around, the plagues could have all just been coincidences. And I'm like, dude, why don't you just tell us it's a story? And then he did. And he said, oh, this is just a story. This is just someone wrote this. It's, I'm like, what? You change your mind depending upon how fantastic the story is. But yes, but I want you for a minute, you're the author here and you've set this build up and you're trying to create a religion, or you're trying to, I want to, put a face on God. I want to describe his character. I want to dictate to you what God himself would say given the chance. All right? That's what we're leading up to. We had the burning bush, and I think I've been through this quite a bit in this episode, so if you want to read that, that's another synopsis. You can pause. Boom. My point is, it's quite a buildup. So now, what happens? What's he going to say when he comes down the mountain? Does anybody know? The 10 Commandments. That's what he told Moses. What a buildup. And so, I've gone over these before in detail in my episode 29, where I was talking about things I wish I knew as a young Christian, or when I first became born again. And the 10 Commandments are they are the best place to start when you become a Christian and you want to get your life together and you want to focus on what's important. You want to be sanctified. You want to be holy. You want to please God. You are now part of the holy nation as a Christian with a stricter calling than even the Jews, who had 5 books of laws to guide them. Well, actually, Leviticus. We'll just say Leviticus and Exodus. Of laws guiding them on how to behave and what would rule their nation. But the 10 Commandments are the bedrock. They're the foundational things. And they're also the things that God told Moses at this moment going forward. Until then, Judaism and Israel and even Christ, they were all just promises to Abraham. Right? Nobody knew. No one had written down, specifically exactly what it meant to be Jewish. They just tried to be good. And God spake all these words, saying, I am the Lord thy God, which they have brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Commandment number 1, thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not, and then number 2, thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. And like I said, I went over these in detail in episode 29. I'm going to go over them again in an episode that got cooked up probably in 4 or 5 more episodes. I want to finish the book of Exodus, and then we'll see where we are. But it's the episode's called Let's Invent Our Own Religion. And that'll be a lot of fun. But we're going to go a deep dive then again. So that'll be 3 times. Can never go over this enough. Thou shalt not make an idol. Don't do that. And in Isaiah 44, verses 12 through 19, I just encourage you to go read that. It's a great little scripture about how someone goes and cuts down a block of wood. Part of it he creates a fire with. Part of it he, builds a window. And another part he makes into an idol and he bows down and worships it. And Isaiah is mocking that person and saying, it never comes into his heart that I burned part of it and I used part of it for a door and now I'm worshiping it. So it's a funny thing. But God doesn't want you to make any idols. Thou shalt not bow down to them, nor serve them, for I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the 3rd and 4th generation of them that hate me. Ain't this the truth? My wife who's a social worker, she sees it all the time, that a lot of the poverty and a lot of the dysfunction, the abuse, the drug abuse, the alcoholism, the infidelity and all that stuff, it's all generational. It's almost never, my parents were rich and I came from a good no. Usually it's just the poor and the prisoners of the world. They just keep making the same mistakes over and over again, generationally. And it's the hope of the rich that their kids actually follow the good core principles that got them there. And, whatever. Children will be children. They have a free will. What can you do? And showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. There you go. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain. And I always thought that was funny how people from different nations and cultures, they all say the name of the Lord in vain when they swear. It's funny, but they do. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. And how do you do that? You just rest. How hard is that? Isn't that funny? That's one of the 10 commandments, is take the 7th day off. Don't work. Crazy, right? 6 days, there it is. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath to the Lord thy God. You shall do no work, not you, your son, your daughter, your servants, your cattle, or the stranger that is within thy gates. For in 6 days the Lord made heaven and the earth, and on the 7th day the Lord rested and blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it, declared it holy. And it's funny that you better believe we take Saturday off, don't we? Right? Everyone loves the weekend. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God hath given thee. A quick word. I know I've talked about this before. I'll say it again. But this is not only for you. This is not only for your parents, but it's for the generations. It's for your children. It's because when you get old, and I'm getting there, when you're in your 80s, someone's going to have to help take care of you. All of a sudden, you're back to being a dependent. And maybe your spouse dies first, so you guys can't take care of each other anymore. Now, who's going to take care of you? Who's going to help? I look at my wife and I'll do simple things like, scrape the ice off her windshield in the morning, and little things like that, when I die, she's going to be on her own to do all that stuff. And it's annoying and you need help. And if you haven't shown that kind of deference and respect and servitude toward your own parents and honored them, your children are watching and you're their example, and they will emulate how you treat your parents. And so you don't want to abandon them, and then when you're old, wonder why your children have abandoned you. And while I'm at another little quick insight is that children will emulate the relationship that you have with your wife, right? If they're the mother and their daughter, then they see the example of the relationship between the mother and the father, and they emulate that. And that's their example. Same thing with sons. They see the way that the dad treats the mother, and then that's their template. So anyway, honor thy father and mother. Thou shalt, and the simple ones, thou shalt not kill. I'm on board with that. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Very good one. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not lie, especially not in court. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house, thy neighbor's wife, his servants, his ox, his ass, or anything that is thy neighbor's. That is completely germane today. We have so much class envy. Tax the rich, make them pay their fair share. God is here to tell you, do not even concern yourself with them. You are coveting their stuff, you're jealous of them, and it's not holy, and it's not good for you. I mean, God cares about you and your heart and your peace of mind. That's why he says all this stuff, all these laws have been written onto our heart, and God is just simply nominating them here. This is the way that society can function. If we all follow these rules, society will be a peaceful, blessed place, which is why the children of Israel were chosen, sanctified, set apart, and are a peculiar treasure unto God. And all the people saw the thunderings and the lightnings and the noise of the trumpet and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they removed. They backed up and stood afar off. And they said unto Moses, Speak thou with us, and we will hear. But let not God speak with us, lest we die. So they had enough of that. So here, I just did this 10 Commandments for a screenshot so you can go and memorize this and write it on the tablet of your heart. Like I said, it's good to nominate these things. And we're going to go over it again later also because it's that important. And now here's the New Testament perspective on what we just read. This is probably written by Paul, and he brings out an intensity that may have been a little bit lacking actually from the Old Testament. But let's read it. For you, and he's talking about the difference between the Christian calling and the nation of Israel's calling. That our calling is even more sanctified, more holy, I guess you'd call it. It's just more intense. You'll see. For you have not come unto the mountain that might be touched, and that burn with fire, nor into blackness and darkness and tempest, and the sound of the trumpet and the voice of words, which voice that they heard, entreated, begged, that the word should not be spoken to them any more. For they could not endure that which was commanded, and if so much as a beast touch the mountain, it shall be stoned or thrust through with a dart, shot. And so terrible was the sight that Moses said, I exceedingly fear and quake. But ye are come unto Mount Sion, and unto the city of the living God, and the heavenly Jerusalem, and an innumerable company of angels. See what he's doing here? He's saying that was in the physical realm. But now Jesus has presented himself as a sacrifice up in heaven, at the throne of God. And that's where our heart is. That's where our thoughts are. That's where our religion is. From heaven. But you are coming to Mount Zion, the heavenly Jerusalem, and an innumerable company of angels, to the general assembly up in heaven, and church of the firstborn, which are written in heaven, and to God the judge of all, and to the spirits of just men made perfect, and to Jesus the mediator of the new covenant, and to the blood of sprinkling that speaketh better things than that of the blood of Abel. See that ye refuse not him that speaketh. For if they escape not who refused him that spake on earth, as we will see when we continue our book of Exodus studies, much more shall we not escape, if we turn away from him that speaketh from heaven, whose voice then shook the earth, but now he hath promised, saying, Yet once more I shake not the earth only, but also heaven. And with that, enjoy your faith, enjoy your weekend, and everybody, please take care. And oh, by the way, Merry Christmas to all.